Hi everyone! Welcome to your first official video lecture of Biology 152. I hope you found Module 0, the introductory module, okay to do. Remember, if you have any problems at all about course content, so if you have any questions about course content or just about the course itself, just please put it in the chat room so anyone can see it and I'll respond to your questions there. So hopefully you had no trouble working through the module, and I hope that you have your lecture guide printed out because these will be a very important aid for you taking notes throughout this course. This is exactly what I do in the school year, and my students say it is very, very helpful in taking notes on the lecture. So, Introduction to Evolution. As I'm sure you've ascertained that the first part of this course will be all about evolution. Now, evolution is not a word that is limited just to the biological sciences. I mean, I'm sure you've heard it in other contexts. So, for instance, we could talk about the evolution of women's rights in the United States, or the evolution of, I don't know, the Japanese tea ceremony. So, what does the word just evolution mean to you? Just think about that a moment. Usually my students say something like gradual change, and that is absolutely correct. In an everyday context, evolution means a small gradual change over a long period of time. So yes, in general, evolution means a small gradual change over a long period of time. So evolution is typically slow and gradual, where revolution is rapid change, right? But in biology, we concern ourselves with the theory of evolution. Now, I could take a whole semester and talk about the nuances of evolutionary theory, but if you just want to boil it down to its bare bone basics, in a nutshell, the theory of evolution states that all life on our planet arose from a single common ancestor. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. Evolution, the theory of evolution states that all life on planet Earth arose from a single common ancestor. That's it. Sort of a simple idea, profound but simple. As sort of a corollary to this theory, evolution also maintains that life originated in a very simple form on our planet and became more complex and diverse with time. So that's it. That's how we look at evolutionary theory. Now, you were supposed to complete our little true-false quiz, if you will, for evolution. Now, when I'm making this video, I don't have your results yet because the course hasn't started yet. So I'm just going to review the results of a class I had last semester, and then I hope to post a PowerPoint slide of our results, and you can compare and see if your class, our online class, is typical of my in-person classes. So here we go. Question 1. The theory of evolution states that humans evolved from apes, just like the one in the zoo. As you can see from my class last semester, that most of my students thought this question was true. 23 stated that this was true, and 20 stated this was false. Notice that the TA who made these graphs didn't always set this as 0, but we'll work with it. It's okay. All right, so if you said true, you can be happy that you answered the same way as most of my students in the spring. And if you said true, you can be happy for another reason, because you're already going to get your tuition dollars worth from this course because that is the incorrect answer. All right, so let's examine this a little bit. Here's you, and then here's the ape in the zoo. All right. Now, according to the theory of evolution, when you're looking at that ape in the zoo who's apparently having fun with a water balloon, you are not looking at your grandma or even a great-great-great-great-grandma of yours, all right? According to the theory of evolution, if you go far and back enough in time, you and that ape have in common a great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great- according to the theory of evolution, humans did not evolve from apes, just like the ape you see in the zoo, that we have a very, very distant common ancestor, maybe 6 to 7 or 8 million years ago. We had common ancestors. Yeah, pretty crazy. So if you look at that ape zoo, you should not say, "Hey, grandma." Do you know what you should say? Yeah, you should say, "Hi, cuz." So, maybe next time you think about having one of those big extended family reunions, you should invite a chimpanzee or two. Now, I know that's a very, 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 very weird idea, but if you want an even weirder idea, you may have a family dog, right? So according to the theory of evolution, if you go back even farther in time, yeah, there's a interesting pug with a mug. If you go back even farther in time, you and the ape in the zoo and your dog have an even more remote common ancestor. All right, now I'm going to go out on a limb here, so to speak. I'm going to guess that you put up a Christmas tree at Christmas time. And hopefully it wasn't artificial, but maybe it was. But if you look at a pine tree, all right, according to evolutionary theory, if you go back even farther in time, you and the ape in the zoo and your dog, if you go back even farther in time, your ancestry with the tree hooks up too. So you, and again, there's other branches, of course, that's coming off here. There's other mammals and others animals and other types of plants, all right? But yes, according to evolutionary theory, that if you go far enough back in time, you and the ape in the zoo and your dog and your Christmas tree have an even more distant common ancestor. And to take this to the limit here, like maybe, I don't know, but some of you might have seen somebody drinking a beer once upon a time. And guess what? According to the theory of evolution, the yeast cells that made that beer, if you go far enough back in time, you and the ape in the zoo and the Christmas tree and your dog and that yeast cell, if you go back far enough in time, even have a common ancestor. So yes, evolutionary theory says, well, I'm drawing this way too big, that life originated as prokaryotic cells, right? The simplest type of cells that we know, and life became complex and diverse throughout the ages. Is that a crazy idea or what? But that's what it says. All right, let's look at question number 2. The Roman Catholic Church condemns the theory of evolution. Now, during the school year, I asked my students anonymously, because I took this information on index cards, to identify themselves as either being raised Catholic or not Catholic. And because this survey wasn't anonymous, I decided not to do that with you guys. But you can see here that most of my students says that the Catholic Church condemns the theory of evolution. And we'll break this out into Catholic and non-Catholic later. So you can look at these results and compare them to your own. Did you say that the Catholic Church condemns the theory of evolution? Is this true or false? Well, let's check with an expert in the field. Let's see what the Pope says. Whoop, hold down. Okay, oh, that's not the current Pope. That is, do you recognize him? JP2, John Paul II. And I chose him because he was the most recent Pope to really come out with a really whole papal paper about evolution. And this Pope was not regarded as a schmuck in the church. In fact, he was just canonized in April of 2014. So this is a heavy-duty player in the Catholic Church. So what did John Paul II have to say about evolution? Well, here's a headline from December 1996. So yeah, maybe, I don't know how old you are, but maybe you were a baby or a toddler at this time. It says, Pope John Paul has lent his support to the theory of evolution, proclaiming, not just whispering, proclaiming that it is compatible with the Christian faith. So let's break this down by Catholic and non-Catholic. Oh, yep. So the Pope is clearly giving his thumbs up to the theory of evolution. All right, so let's see if most of those raised Catholic knew that the statement was false. So the dark purple is raised Catholic, and the pink is non-Catholic. So did more Catholics know that this statement was false? Well, if you just look at the bars, you say, oh yeah, the non-Catholics knew that the church doesn't condemn evolution. But again, look at the scale here. 16 of my Catholic students said it was true. Only 7 said it was false. So my Catholic students were wrong by over a 2-to-1 ratio. Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting, especially in the light of this statement. The belief in God and the theory of evolution are intellectually incompatible. Most of my students said this was false. So I just find this fascinating. Most of my students have no problem personally believing in both God and evolutionary theory, yet they thought their own church condemned it. Now, why is this? And this is my hypothesis, and this may or may not apply to you. I think students, I think most of us are influenced by the media more than we realize. I mean, isn't that the way this is always portrayed in the media? Science versus religion. If you're Christian, you don't believe in evolution. If you're religious, you don't believe in evolution. If you believe in a creator, you don't believe in evolution. All right. Um, It's not my position here to tell you what is compatible and incompatible with a belief in God or Christianity, because I'm here to teach you biology, but I will defer to the Pope as an expert in the field. And if the head of 1 billion Roman Catholics globally says, you know what, there's absolutely no incompatibility with believing in both God and evolutionary theory, I will defer to him. If he says it's okay, then obviously a lot of people think there is absolutely no conflict. And again, we have to think about why so many people just assume there's a conflict between science and religion. If you read the whole article, he also goes on to say, well, if you're Catholic or if you're Christian and you believe in evolutionary theory, he says that's okay, but you have to believe that God's behind the process. Now, what do scientists say about that? What do scientists say about the idea, well, God's behind the process? A good scientist is a scientist says, no comment. Because questions of the supernatural are totally outside the realm of science. I've had the pleasure to work with a lot of people from different science departments, so I personally know people in physics, biology, chemistry, geology, and I've gotten to know their personal religious beliefs. We have some people like Brother Dan Kelso in the biology department, who is a vowed Roman Catholic. We have scientists who are all sorts of different denominations of Christianity, including evangelical. We have agnostics, we have atheists, we have Muslims. And guess what? We all do science the same way. We all teach evolution the same way, and none of us have any problem with evolutionary theory. Science is the way we examine, investigate the natural world, and we all have our own personal philosophies as far as the meaning of life and how and why we're here. That's the domain of religion. So that takes me to my next point. If the Catholic Church and the Pope have no problem with the theory of evolution, what do they say about the Genesis text? Well, it's my understanding that they say that the Genesis text convey a spiritual truth. Things like God created the world, and the world is good, and then there was original sin, and so on and so forth. I mean, that is the role of any religious body, to lead their followers to religious truth. And again, using the Genesis text as a source of religious truth, scientists say, no comment. Not as a scientist. As a person, a human being, yeah, we have a perspective. But as a scientist, that's not for us to say if the Genesis text are a source of spiritual truth. I do, however, have something to say about using the Genesis text as a source of scientific information. I have a lot to say about that. Because how old are the Genesis texts? I'm going to page up so you don't get distracted by that. How old are the Genesis texts? Well, I'll tell you. No, this is what I want to ask you. How old is science as a tool for obtaining knowledge about the natural world? The scientific revolution started in the mid-1500s. Science as a tool, as a method, as a way to obtain knowledge about the natural world did not exist before the 1500s. Are the Genesis texts older or younger than this? Yeah, the Genesis texts are older than this. The Genesis texts are a lot older than this. The Genesis texts are 3,000 years old. All right? So it lacks intellectual integrity to apply scientific methodology to texts that were written 3,000 years before the advent of science. It lacks intellectual integrity. It is intellectually inappropriate. If you take the Genesis text as a source of scientific information, then this is your worldview. All right, there is a dome separating the waters above from the waters below, and the land has been collected into one mass, and the sun and the moon and the stars are on the dome. Read it. That is the worldview of the Genesis text. And I just want to drive this point home a little bit about using today's standards and today's ideas and applying that to history. So I'm a fan of musical. I love musicals, and I just love the music from West Side Story. Are you guys familiar with that? It's a love story between Tony and Maria, all right? And there was a culture class. It's pretty much the modern day version of Romeo and Juliet. And so let's see if we can listen to what Maria is singing here. If I can figure out how to do it. Haha, let's just try this. All right, I will come back and to you in the next little video, and I will get Maria singing and finish up this PowerPoint. See you soon.